Well, hello once again, shell buddies, and welcome back to the channel. So, if you've been following along, you've seen the Finn Finds 5 beaches in 2 days. And boy, what a pile of stuff we brought back from those beaches. Oh, my goodness. I have to start using up some of all these shells so I can make some room to go get some more. Woo! Okay. So, as I promised a few of you in the comments section, there would be a mega crafting video coming after all of these cool finds. So I've gone ahead, picked out a bunch of things from a few different beaches. Some of the things that just sort of struck me and sort of jumped out as something that I could do a neat project with so that I could share it with all of you. Welcome to Coastal Crafting with Mitch. That's me. My name is Michelle, but you can call me Mitch because Mitch shells. So buckle up, friends. We're going to have some real fun today, crafting all sorts of things from our finds from Winter Storm Finn. I love it. I just love it. And I'm going to call this guy done. He looks fantastic. Strip. She's done. I've got one of my helpers here with me today. He's starting out kind of slow, but that's okay. Hi, Scoop. So today we are going to do some coastal crafting with Mitch. I've been promising a let's make some stuff video here for a little while. But boy, I'll tell you, with these storms and the amount of stuff going on, it's been tough to get some time just to sit down and actually do some creative process stuff. Some of the things that I enjoy doing with all the cool treasures that I find on the beach. So today, we're going to jump into a few different projects. You're going to be taking a look at a little angel, a sea turtle, I don't know how to describe it because I don't know what they're called, but like a little decorative ball that's kind of made for those, you know, the bread bowl decorations with the little nuts and seed pods and little woven things, you know. Anyway, I'm making some out of shells to put in mine on my coffee table. Oh. And one last little bonus project. Remember this little cutie pie from Longboat? Little Jasmine. Well, she's gotten a name changed to Ocean's Abundance and became this gorgeous little light. Now, this is an extremely involved process, so this would be in a completely separate video, but I wanted you to see her. Now, if you want to craft along and make some of these things yourselves, let's take a look at our tools and materials list. Let's go over the tools first. A hot glue gun, hot glue sticks for it, and a melting pot for dipping things in to put glue on them without having to use the gun. They make pellets for that, but you can cut up your existing glue sticks and do that way too. I also use clear Mod Podge in the pump spray. It is thinner than the jars of Mod Podge. That stuff is really thick, and I find it just soaks in and covers the shells and shines them up nicer. Some small paint brushes to use with that. You're also going to need some scissors for cutting ribbons and paper and such. Needle nose pliers to break little errant pieces of shells or coral off of the pieces you choose to work with. A silicone mat and or other non-stick work surface. I use a silicone mat when I'm using my glue gun and doing shells, but also my work surface has a non-stick mat on it also. Either a ruler or a tape measure. Tape measure will probably be more helpful. A pencil, some blue painter's tape, a vinyl weeding tool pick, and a paper trimmer. You are, of course, also going to need some shells. For the kitten's paw, the Cerith shell ball, and the Auger shell ball, you're going to need some small styrofoam balls between 1.5 to 3 inches in diameter, and a pretty good assortment of Cerith shells, Auger shells, and kitten's paw shells. For the kitten's paw shell ball, you will also need a little bit of ribbon for hiding the color in the background. Some of the shell counts are sort of significant, between 75 and 140 kitten's paws, and about 200 to 300 each of Augers and Cerith for those size shell balls. Now to make the first of our 2 angels, the easier of the 2 with the Venus clam wings, we're going to need a 3-inch wooden teardrop shape. Those were available from Hobby Lobby. They come in assorted circles, ovals, teardrops, all sorts of things. 9 inches or so of grosgrain ribbon, and 10 to 12 inches roughly of the lace and the pearl ribbons. a glass pebble for the face, a hinged pair of Sunray Venus clams for the wings, a smaller white scallop, about 1.5 inch diameter for the halo for the head, a large operculum for the body, and a small calico scallop, about 3/4 inch or so, to go over the center of the bow to trim the choir robe bow. The second angel I have marked as intermediate, maybe not the first project you want to tackle if you've never done this before, but if you have a little bit of experience with a glue gun, you should be just fine. You'll need another one of those wooden pieces, an oval 3 inches or so long, split down to half lengthwise, and two 2.5 inch wooden teardrop shapes, and these are to create the base for the wings for you to glue the shells onto. You'll also need some ribbon to hang it with, a glass pebble for the face, some more of the lace ribbon and pearl trim to make the choir robe bow, and of course a white scallop for the head and the operculum for the body. For the wings, I used 12 purplish Tageless shells, 6 facing left, 6 facing right. I explained that further in the video. 24 coquina shells. I picked out some pink ones and a couple of purple ones. You want half of those left facing, half of those right, and 1 pair of angel wing shells, approximately 3 inches long. Now for Sigmund, our sea turtle, I'm just going to give you like some of the basics. I can't really tell you how many shells it's going to take you to fill in the empty spaces because I don't know how big of a box you're using, how big your calico clams or Sunray Venuses are. So you'll need to have a pretty healthy assortment of the calico clams and the Sunray Venus clams for the larger parts of the shell, and a couple of fistfuls of smaller things, whelks and so on to fill in the empty extra spots. You will need 3 operculums varying sizes. Make the largest one the front flipper, the next size down the head, and the smallest one the back leg. Assorted little pieces of coral and a piece of sea whip to make the little decoration there down in the bottom, of course. And just try to vary your shells as much as you can to get some additional color and texture. Again, it's hard to give you a count on how many you'll use. The bigger they are, you'll use less. The smaller they are, you'll use more. Let's get into it. And the theme of today's project is what to do with common shells and operculums that I collect. Alright, so I'm back at my workspace for the first time in a little while, and I've pulled some shells from the Finn Finds 5 beaches that I thought would be kind of fun to work with to make some cute little projects with today. So up here, you'll see I've got some operculums, and I've got some of those hinged Sunray Venus clams that were really cool. Got a pretty scallop here, and I'll be looking for another one in a moment. Got some more operculums. These are a little smaller and in slightly better shape than these big guys, but these big guys are going to look good after we're done with them. Now, a number of people have asked me, what do you do with these? Like, why do you collect them? I collect them because I think they're really cool, because when you've seen us pick up the live animals and what size the operculums are on the live animals that are like this big, then you can imagine how big the animal was that these came from. This one's a lightning whelk. This one's from a horse conch. You can tell a little difference. The lightning whelk ones are a little more squarish kind of on the ends here, and the horse conch ones are rounder. So I have 3 set up here. Some calico clams there, some different sizes and shapes of these calico clams, some bigger, some smaller, and a couple of random pieces of coral and other things. So this is going to be a shadow box. This is going to be a little piece of wall art. These guys here, I'm going to make some little beachy angels out of these guys here. And let's see, I have another scallop up here. Is that the right? Yeah, that's the right size for that. All right, that's going to go with that. And then I also have these. Got a selection here of Kitten's paws, Auger shells, and these little Cerith guys. And you'll notice they're not really all of them in great shape. They don't need to be for what we're about to do. We are going to make a little decorator ball, just like you see here in this bowl. This one is covered in chestnut turbans from Honeymoon Island. Alright, so now that you've seen what it is that we're going to be making, sort of, so you can imagine these little balls covered with the shells, just like that. So right now, I have my little glue gun fired up here. I check to plug, make sure it's plugged in. You just pull a little trigger, and you should see there's a little light there. Alright, I am not sponsored by these people, but I love their glue gun and I love their glue sticks, so that's what I'm using. I like Gorilla, it's good stuff. Now, back here you also see that there's a little pot kind of back here. This is the little heat pot they put the little glue stick pellets in. Anyhow, the point of this is to take each one of these styrofoam balls, cover them with each different type of shell, and then put them in my cool little bowl that's on the coffee table. I think I'd like to start with these first. Now, as I mentioned before, I have my glue gun going, and I also have my dipping pot. And what that lets you do is dip things into it and then stick them on instead of having to apply the glue with a gun. So I like to have this handy when I'm doing any kind of collage work. And you'll also see me just taking like the little stringy pieces, just dumping them in there. And that just keeps my area cleaned up and sort of lets you reuse the glue in a manner of speaking. Alrighty then, let's get started. Now, if I was doing something a little more precise, like I did with the chestnut turban one, for example, from Honeymoon Island, I might go around and mark this out and make quadrants and try to get the same amount of shells opposite of each other. And I may have to do that with the spikier shells, but for these, really random, then I am not going to even bother with that. All these little kitten paws, there are all sorts of different shapes to them. So what I'm going to do here is just sort of fit them together, overlap them if I need to, you know, and just cover this whole thing with it. Now, some of the white background may show through a little bit. I think I am going to put a little bit of ribbon or raffia on it. I went through my collection of goodies and I found this ribbon, which is kind of nice and tan, and pick up some of those little emptier spaces and make them look a little more filled in. And the temptation would be to wind it and just wind it like you were making a ball of yarn, but what that'll end up giving you is more of an egg with the overlap spots with this stuff on the places where it does that. So rather than do that, I'm just going to go in strips like that and just sort of evenly space them out so that I don't get a big blob of ribbon up here that kind of distorts my shape. So let's see. Let's first get this edge cut off and clean. There we go. And let's see here. I mean, not the styrofoam balls are perfect either, but you can see there's a bit of a flat spot from the production right there. So that gives you a good sort of a spot to sort of start from. And then that'll give you, there's your halfway point there. So I'm going to cut a bunch of these little strips all out of the same size, the same length rather, and then just glue them around. Like I said, I'm not looking to cover this thing 100%. I just want to take up some of the areas where gaps may actually show through. Alright, now back to our styrofoam ball here. There's my little flat spot. I can feel it. It's kind of right there. And start putting a little glue there just to get the ribbon tacked. And yeah, it's going to swoosh through there. So try to flatten that a little bit. That's quite hot, so be careful. You can run your glue gun at a low or a high temperature. This particular model, I tend to leave it on high because there's a faster recovery time on using the glue when I'm working and just putting glue sticks through it. You'll have to sit there and wait for it to kind of warm up. Alright, so I'm just going to make a little line here. And the reason it doesn't matter if this is perfect is I'm going to be putting shells over it. It's okay if the glue comes through a little bit. It's okay if it's not perfect. This is a very, very forgiving craft. You know, I am going to use one of my little pokey tools here to sort of smooth things so I don't have to burn my finger. Just peel the glue off, throw it in the pot. And again, I showed this in a recent video. I have 3 or 4 of these things. This is a Cricut weeding tool. And here, this one's fancy because it has tips that can swap out for different functions for weeding and whatnot. That's what this little button on the end here is for, to lock and unlock that. This one is just this tool in it. These are found in the scrapbooking area of your craft stores where they have things for crickets and silhouettes and all of that kind of stuff. That's what these are for weeding the vinyl, picking the design out of there, and for smoothing things down when you're working with hot glue. So I keep a few of these around. They're great for acting as a pick to clean shells with. Pretty versatile little tool. And I think if you go into the craft store, you can probably get it for under 10 Wish or Temu or something like that. You'll probably find it for less than that and have to wait a little longer for it, but super, super helpful and useful. That's why I have multiples of them. I can't afford to have one and then lose it. I use these all the time. Alright, that's cool. Let's do the one on the opposite side. There we go. And I mean, the ribbon's really kind of the guide for you to go straight, because you already have a piece on. Now you can use this one to sort of guide the second one. And again, this is all getting covered with shells. Does not matter if it is not perfect. Seriously. Let's speed that up a little bit, shall we? And I'm going to just continue to do that all the way around. Alright, so I have the ball basically pretty well covered. Yeah, there's a few gaps. Okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're covering with shells, but this really reduces the places where white will show through. See that now? If I put a couple of shells next to each other and there's a gap, you get a little splash of brown instead of that white styrofoam look. So that just makes it a little nicer. Now, I'm going to dump these things out so I can see what I'm working with here. I'm going to leave this in here so it doesn't roll around all over my work surface. I kind of try to keep it a little still. I don't know. It doesn't really want to stay still. Maybe like this works better. So let's start playing. Let's attempt to put some of these guys together in a way that we know the weight gets covered. Yeah, all right, that works. And it's just going to be as easy as putting some glue with the glue gun on the back of this. And you'll see here where I'm almost out of my glue stick. So before I start, I'm going to make sure that I have these around, that I have a few of them easily at the ready. Because once I get in the zone and start grooving, I don't want to stop and be fumbling around for glue sticks. And that's sort of a pain, especially when you're holding something with one hand and you're trying to glue it with other, and then you're out of glue and you're like, oh no. Super forgiving project. See what happens when you run out of the glue? Just push that forward. Keep on working. There. These are going to end up being in all kinds of crazy angles to each other because all of these are slightly different shapes and sizes. Got some big ones. I've got smaller ones. Some that are colorful. But they're all a little bit different. So there's not really anything where you can make it like a straight line around and make them go around. It's not, this isn't the shell for that. They're a little too irregular. But I do love these colors. Gosh. Now see how I'm going to have a little tiny gap there and a little bit of brown is showing through. They are sitting quite nicely on this little ball shape. This is good. Ooh, that looks fun. And I can go like this with it. Or I can just keep a more random. Basically, I'm just going to try things and see what fits. That one fits nicely there. There. Got the first 4 on now. Now we can see this is starting to come along nicely. And we're only just part of the way covered, so we still got a ways to go yet. Now, as you just saw, you don't want to work too fast. You need to let the glue have a little time to set. Otherwise, things that you put on are just going to shift around and move. So I can't work super duper fast here. But that's alright. It's not about the speed. It's about the enjoyment. Oh! Alright, you guys on there more solidly. Yeah, that's better. Alright, so now you can see we're getting a pretty good bit of it covered. And yeah, there's some little spaces that show through, but the ribbon being on there really sort of helps it fill it in and gives it a nice, background color. Kind of looking at this, hoping I have enough of these shells to do this. I wasn't sure if I had enough or not. It's sort of hard to tell until you start going. Trying to take up this extra space in this bowl. A couple of pieces of coral so things don't move on me while I'm trying to set some of these trickier ones. Like this one I'm working on right now. This thing doesn't want to sit flat, so I take up all that space. Once I started putting the shells, the little ribbon spool didn't work anymore. Yeah, it's pretty. Now, if these shells look a little shinier than maybe they should, a while back when I had collected these, I thought that they'd be nice if they had a like a coat of poly clear on them. And then once I did that, I wasn't in love with it, so I stopped doing it because I sort of like the more natural looking colors to them. But Every so often you'll see me pick one up and put on it. It's sort of shiny. And so that's from, yes, I know, I use a ton of glue, but I'd rather have a little too much on there than have something fall apart. You notice I'm going to keep moving this and turning it just to see how things are coming along, how it's looking. Now again, this has no function other than a decorator piece, so there is really no way you can mess it up. Literally easy peasy project, no right wrong way to do it. I mean, this is one of those ones you can even do with the youngsters. Wow, so we've got quite a bit covered at this point. Way more than half now. Okay, give that a second to cool. Then we only have a couple more to fit in. And there we have it, our completed first ball covered with some ribbon and some kitten's paws. And a little Deodova in the background on Pandora. Now with the Ceriths, I have a few more of these. Some are a little bigger than others, but that really doesn't matter. The fun part with this is you get to dip them in the glue, which I'm just going to stir that up a little bit. Now this can be kind of messy, so just be aware of that. And all I'm trying to do is get these guys to stand up on here. And you can see how this would be a lot trickier to do with the glue gun. Now, it's a styrofoam ball, so you can press down into it a little bit, and this sharp point will press in. So it doesn't matter if some of these are a little wonky on their ends, or they got this little pokey spot sticking out, because that's really going to get covered anyway. There you go. So that's how I'm going to cover this one. Now with this I am going to go a little bit slower too and let things have time to cool. See how some of these Ceriths are really not that perfect, but they're getting put this way. So you're going to be looking down their spike, not at their imperfect end, because that's the part that's getting glued to the ball. And I'm just dipping things into the hot glue and setting them on here. Now, some of these are pretty broken, right? But watch. You can make that poke right into the styrofoam, so it won't make it like it doesn't work. It won't be uneven or lay weird or anything like that, because you can push it right into the foam. And then we also have this glob of hot glue on the end, kind of hold it in place for us. There you go. Now I'm trying not to use too big of a difference in the size of these shells, just because I don't want one side to be all long and spiky and the other one to be all short or anything like that. It'll look strange. So I'm going to intersperse some of the bigger ones with some of the smaller ones to try to even them out. did get quite a bit of glue on this last section here. So I'm going to go ahead and just barely tap a couple more and get that into that. And hopefully I have enough of these guys to cover this whole ball. And again, these don't have to be perfect shells. The point isn't to make this out of the most perfect shells you own. The point is to use up some of the not so perfect shells, making something pretty out of them. And I'm trying to get them, you know, pretty much straight up and down. If you angle them, by the time you get over to here, things will be angled off so sharply that you won't be able to fill any in. And I am putting quite a bit of glue on these. That helps take up the space. And you'll see I'm working at a steady pace. I'm not trying to fly through this and go fast, but I'm also not dawdling here either. Hot glue is great because it sets so quickly, but because it sets so quickly, you need to move along, or it starts to cool and it won't stick to what you're doing. It's starting to look like a little forest of trees. So that is the process that I'm going to use to cover this little guy. He's going to end up being good sized, and keep that in mind. If you're going to do this with augers or ceriths, you want to start with a much smaller ball. Let's see, if you start with a ball this size and then add this much height to both sides of it, that thing will be humongous. It'll be a little too heavy for it to be in the bowl, and it won't want to support itself. Some of your shells will break. So you keep them fairly densely packed, and you start with a smaller ball so it's a little less work and a little sturdier. Gosh, I'm looking at this thing and I am not sure I have enough shells for this. I may have to check the stash out in the shed and see if there's more. And you can see the benefit also to using the dip pot for this. Just lets you dunk and go without having to try to hold with one hand and maneuver things with the other. And you're working with heat. If you get a little space, just stick a smaller guy up in there. Filling it in. Oh man, that is a nice shell. Looks like a Wendell drop, but isn't. That's actually an old predecessor to the fly-speck Cerith, I do believe. It's a cool little fossil. I think I'm going to set him aside. I like him. Now, because this is a little heavy where you have the shells starting to go, this isn't very easy to set down. So I'm going to just keep on working here until I get a good bit of it done. And you can see using the different sizes, you're going to get some little peaks and valleys. So you want to just try to scatter them around in there and not get too much of the same size next to each other. Or don't be too focused on having them all the same size, because this one with the Ceriths is pretty forgiving. You know, see, in this instance, this guy was broken a little bit, but I was able to kind of hit two other shells so that by the time I get done putting these other ones around him, he's going to be held in there. He's not really going to go anywhere. this is an extremely forgiving project. And once you start getting a bunch of them done, then you can kind of get an idea of what that's going to look like. When it's finished, it's going to be pretty good sized, quite large, even though we're starting out with a pretty small styrofoam ball. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you probably saw very recently a video on the shell show in Sarasota for the Shell Club. I am a member of that Shell Club, and I'm one of the artisans there. And we make fun stuff all year round to help make money to support our club and to support Carefree Learner. So if shell crafting is something you really like doing and you want to have some friends to do with it, or do it with, and you're in Sarasota area, by all means go to sarasotashellclub.com and check it out. Oh yeah, this is starting to look really cool. I am worried about having enough though, boy. I might have to go out to the shed and see if I can find some more. Now, as you can see, some of these are different heights and different shapes, and it's just getting a really nice random look. Really fun. And if you do happen to see any of the holes, just get the glue gun in there and just drop some extra glue in. So it fill those in, keep everything nice and sturdy. Yeah, this is coming out neat. But boy, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think I have enough of these shells. Adding more glue pellets to the little hot pot, to the little skillet. When you do this, you sort of have to walk away and let everything melt. That's the downside of using a glue pot, is having to wait for the temperature to adjust, other than like what we have here with the glue gun, where you can kind of just grab and go. But as you were seeing as I was doing this process, and yeah, I don't have enough shells in the house. It's cool though, right? It's starting to look like a big sea urchin. That is so neat. So I'm going to go out to my shed and find some more of my spiky shells. I know I have more Cerith somewhere. Oh yeah, I went out to the shed and found some of my other trips worth of shells. I've literally been collecting augers and Ceriths for this particular project now for some time. So I had to go outside and get a few more. I didn't have enough pulled, but looks like I'll have plenty to finish the job now. Alright, so after a quick trip out to my shed, I found plenty more of both augers and Cerith, so I'll be able to get both of these done. Very happy that I had more of these, but I'm not even kidding. I've been saving these shells for months because I wanted to do this project. I've been wanting to do this for the longest time. It takes a while to save up enough shells to kind of get everything covered here. Going right back to what I was doing. I'm trying to get them to stand up straight wherever I place them. Just dunking them in the glue. And sticking them in here. And I'm trying to keep them very close, like almost touching, so that it looks nice and full and lush. Now, as I'm filling these in too, I'm trying to sort of spread out the the light ones and the dark ones so that there's like an even mix. I'm trying not to have one area all light shells and one all dark. I'm more looking for like a random distribution of the colors. See, I'm not trying to put all dark next to all dark and all light next to all light. I'm just sort of mingling them all in there at different points and spaces. And again, varying the size of the shells, varying the heights of them. I'm pushing some a little bit into the styrofoam itself, and others I'm just setting it on there. And if I'm not sure there's enough around the bottom, I will add a little drip of glue in there just to make sure everything is going to hold nice and tightly. Don't want this little guy to fall apart once I'm done building it. I think we're gonna speed up through a little bit of this and sort of power on through a little quicker just to get through some of it. The process is much the same. You're picking a shell, you're putting it in the glue, you're putting it on the styrofoam. You're trying to randomly move around colors, randomly move around sizes and shapes so that you don't end up with like one side of your ball taller than the other or one side darker than the other. And it's just looking so full and fluffy. It's so nice. Yeah, this is a really cool project. Really easy project to do too. Very easy project for the beginner. You just need a lot of these little shells. I'm going to actually count up for you how many this takes and let you know. Cutting it close, but I am going to have enough shells, it looks like, to finish this guy, which is awesome. And man, he's looking nice. Oh, what a cool living room decoration, man. I'm going to be excited to have this in my living room. And as long as you have enough shells, this is one of those projects you can get done in an afternoon. As you can tell, we've gotten the other one we did earlier, this one here, got that guy completed, and then we're going to have this guy completed, so 2 of them done in an afternoon, and that's with having to stop and find more shells. Not too bad. Getting a little tougher to hold it and press things in a little. Now that it's all spiky here, it's sort of digging into my hand, and I'm trying to... Hot glue has a tendency to leave little threads when it stretches, and I'm just, carefully trying to remove those as I go. And I'll give it a good once over to make sure they're all gone before I wrap this project up. Guy in position before the glue cools. There we go. Hot glue is great because it allows you to work fast, but you have to work fast. Only so long before things start cooling. Alright, we're winding up now. We're getting to the end here. Definitely are going to have just enough shells to finish this, which is amazing. the closer you get to finish, actually the easier this becomes, because you can see exactly what size you need to fill in a spot. Sort of makes it nice. Again, you can see I'm varying the color, varying the size, varying the height. And before I call the project done, I usually go over everything and make sure I don't have any glue strands hanging or anything like that. Oh, this looks great. I love it. Now let's see if we can find the just right size for the last couple of spaces, and this eye will be done. Yep, that fits. And then a smaller one right here. And a small one right there, and that's that. Ouch, I just put my hand in the glue pot. That's hot. Yep. Alrighty. That looks great. Ah, oh, beautiful. So awesome. And remember, that was the size of the ball that we started out with, and this is how big it got. So it's going to be much the same story with the augers, maybe even to a little more extent, because the augers tend to be longer than the Ceriths. So we were going to follow this exact same process to cover the other one with the auger shells, and we'll just end up going through that, you know, sort of through the high speed really quickly, since you've already seen basically how to do it with the Ceriths. Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. Oh, and did you notice I pulled this out to the side? It's a cute little fly speck Cerith in really great shape, and I thought it was an auger. I'm going to put that one on my shelf. Oh man, yeah, those look great. Just great. Love that. Alright, so you can see here I've got a couple of different containers and then a pile in front of me. I'm basically sort of pre-sorting the augers. Ceriths are all, yeah, they're not that far apart in size for the most part when I pick them up, but augers, they're all over the place. Got big guys like that and little ones like that, which will make it a lot harder to get that effect with it if there's that much staggering. So what I'm doing is just sort of pulling apart the augers and just picking out the fatter, longer ones, putting the little ones aside for filling in spaces at the end. But anything that looks like it's super long compared to some of the others, I'm kind of debating whether I'm pulling them out or leaving. Like that one I'm going to pull out, that one too. Some of, like this one here, it's skinny, but it's really long for some reason. Augers come in quite a variety of their diameter, of their length. So they're kind of neat shells actually, but for this particular exercise, we want these a little closer in size rather than farther apart. Some really great color variety on these. These are going to be a lot of fun to work up. complete. Just a few more shells. Oh gosh, I like this one even more than the one with the Ceriths. I should turn that down. There, maybe you can hear me now. Yeah, this is coming out amazing. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Wow. Boy. I mean, I had 2 of these things full. That takes quite a lot of shells to complete. My goodness. Not too many left. So I would suspect there's probably over 100 on here, maybe. I will do a final count for the video and put it in the text right below us so you can see how many shells this actually took. These are much easier to fit than the Ceriths were. Boy, that's hot though. Wow. Man. Pro tip, don't put your fingers in the glue pot. There. One more will fit it and that'll be it. Okay, last one. There. And there we have it. Our 3 little styrofoam ball decorations. This one was the biggest foam ball, and it turned out the smallest. This is a ball with kitten paws, and then the 2 smaller ones became the Cerith and the Auger spike balls. And oh my gosh, these are just gorgeous. I mean, dang, look at that. Super spiky, super cool. All right, time to put them in the bowl with the other decorations. Let's go see how they look. Oh man, that looks fantastic. I love it. I just love it. Look at those, how textural and awesome they are with these seed pods. Amazing. All right, so there's the first one I did a little while back with the chestnut turbans. And here's the new one with the Ceriths, the Augers, and the kitten's paws. Super, super cool. All right, back at the workbench for day 2. So yesterday, we made all of those cool shell-covered balls. Today we're going to take a crack at making an angel, which is down here. And then I have this cool piece of wall art kind of conceptualized. And I want to use the operculums to make the pieces of the turtle and then make a shell. This is like what I would call, this is kind of how I sketch. Down to our little angel here. This was actually found as a hinged pear. And it'll make a nice little, you know, wall hanging, or put it up behind you for your Zoom screen, or hang it in your vehicle from your mirror. If you hang stuff from your mirrors, you can put it on a suction cup in a window or on a fridge, whatever you want to do with it. Angels can be good all year round in a lot of different contexts of decorating. So I just like my little beachy angels, and they make me smile and happy. First things first, I'm going to tackle the turtle afterwards. Actually, I can just leave that on there, I suppose. So I'm going to move this off of the work surface and give myself a little room to do the angels. So we'll work on that first. So I'm just starting to cut the ribbon. I've got my little pieces sort of assembled. You'll notice that I have a little wooden flat shape, just like this. And they come in these bags in Hobby Lobby. And there's, there's round ones, oval ones, teardrop ones. So I think I pulled the biggest teardrop shape there was. Actually, ooh, there is one bigger. Alright, so I'm going to pull the big teardrop shape, and I'm going to use it as a base to sort of mount this stuff on. I'll leave both of them out here and see which ends up working out better. Also, you'll notice there's a silicone rubber mat underneath me. Just like I keep this plastic up here, this is a non-stick sheet. This is also non-stick, and a must if you are going to do shell crafting with smaller stuff in particular too. When you're looking to assemble things, you want to be able to pick up the little threads and little drips and all that stuff that you get everywhere, and you want to be able to do it easily. So should have broken this out yesterday when I was working on stuff, but I found it this morning. I'm going to use it today. And I've got 3 different kinds of trim here. You'll see I've got a burlap lace looking ribbon, a little grosgrain ribbon here, and a seafoam green, and then just these little string pearl looking ones. The first one I have trimmed following along with the pattern on the lace. Now you'll see where the points where they're further apart and closer together line up across from each other. So if you go diagonally from this one to this one, gives you a nice straight angle, and it just happens to fit on there like really perfectly. So that's hard to give a measurement for, but 2 sets of scallops on the top, 4 sets on the bottom, that'll do you. This again is just stuff you can get at Michael's, Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, wherever you want to get your trims from, whatever appeals to you color-wise. Now for this, I'm going to make sort of like a bow thing. 12 inches will do it for that, more than enough. So if you don't have a lot of this particular kind of trim, you're not going to need a lot. So we'll take that piece of that piece of that. Of course, our wings are the Sunray Beans clams, and our face is just one of these little clear, you put them in the flower vases kind of a thing, pebbles or glass pebbles, or whatever they call them. I like these as opposed to marbles because the back of them has a little bit of grab to the glue. So that's what I use for the face. And then this ribbon is going to be our hanging ribbon. And we're going to need approximately 10 inches of that. And you can see I'm not, it's not any one brand I'm using. There's all different sorts of stuff. Pick whatever you like color-wise and shape-wise. And I've got I keep them all in like a little box. I got other ones in there too. Lace and darker blue and shimmer. This is going to become the hanger. It's going to be suspending our little angel just like that. Okay. This is going to be the collar, and then this is going to be the little beady bow trim that goes with that. If you have cute little bows and you want to do that instead of a hinged coquina, if you don't have a hinged coquina, whatever works, whatever you want to dress it up with. You can give your angel necklace and earrings if you want. It's up to you. Alright, so I'm going to slide this mat toward me a little bit so any glue drips don't get on my background, they just get on this stuff. Now, to get us started, let's take and try laying this down and seeing where we can attach things. And yeah, I think the bigger one is going to work better than the smaller. It looks that way. Right, essentially what I'm wanting to do is I'm making a place where the ribbon can go and where the wings can be supported. Now that'll make like a little nestle point sort of back here, and see if I can kind of get the camera around, or maybe there's a little spot in here where a little opening exists underneath where that operculum is, and I'm going to rest this and glue this here. All right, and then the ribbon will be coming up from behind that. So the first thing I have to attach is the ribbon. And see how rough this is? All right, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to swing her this way or this way. I sort of like this way a little better. It looks a little rough. Normally, to make an operculum sort of come back to life, you're going to want to coat it with something to protect it. Whether you oil it or you seal it is up to you. For me, personally, on this project, I'm going to seal it because I don't want pieces getting broken off of it. So before I glue anything to that, I'm also going to seal that with a coat of Mod Podge too. All right, what I'm going to use on this to seal this is Hard Coat Mod Podge. It's water based, it's a glue and a sealing finish all sort of in one, and Mod Podge, everybody knows their name in crafting world. So Mod Podge is great to have around to use for general crafting. I use it all the time when I do shadow boxes. I seal the shells to bring the colors out. So for a satin finish, 2 coats, let dry for a couple of hours overall, and let dry 20 minutes between coats. If I want to build up a finish, I need to do at least 5 coats and drying for 15 to 20 minutes in between. And then you can wet sand it and really get a nice high shine polish. I don't really need that kind of finish. I'm just going to do the 2 coats and call it good. Alright, when you open your Mod Podge, it needs to be stirred. Don't shake it. You'll get air bubbles in it. And if you're looking for a glossy finish on things that you can polish, those are going to make texture and make your life miserable. For something like this, it doesn't really matter because there's already texture on here. So if I shook this as opposed to stirring it, it wouldn't give me real grief, but I am going to stir instead of shake. I don't really Chinese food much, but you get Chinese a couple of times a month around here. We always end up with some chopsticks. That's what I use them for, is this exactly. Right, now I am going to tell you, the top on the Mod Podge, that liner pops right out of the cap, and then it sort of melts a little bit, but I don't peel this off because this is the best way to keep it nice and airtight and keep it from getting gloppy. So just use my trusty half a chopstick pair here, and give it a little stir. You see why you stir it? Because there's globs in it. That's what Mod Podge does. That's much better. Looking a lot thinner, a lot nicer. Clean that off really quick. The paper towel, and just stick it back over here in my container and use it to stir again later. And then see, I only got just a couple of bubbles in there doing it this way, so that works out. And I'm just going to take this Mod Podge and put a light first coat here. Whoop. Alright, there we go. Once we have this on here, it'll darken the color of this operculum up a lot. See how it's already getting darker? Anything we can do to strengthen this up a little bit, because the operculums are on the fragile side. But also, this seals it and brings the color up nicely, so. There we go. That's a pretty generous, healthy coating there. It's going to take a little bit to dry. sure it's all good and in there. Okay, I'm going to set that aside and wait for that to dry, and then we'll continue. And of course, since we're going to be doing another one of these, set this one, coat him and let him dry too. Now it's up to you if you want to coat the back side. I'm going to do it on both sides of mine. And yeah, that will take me a little longer, but that's all right. This is my happy time. I don't want to rush it. All right, now, while these little Mod Podge layers are drying here, you'll notice that I've got the brush back here in some water. Mod Podge will mess your brushes up a little bit. It wants to dry kind of quickly on them. So I like to use my brushes for paint and Mod Podge. So make sure I clean them well in between. Leave a little thing of water here. That way I can get the Mod Podge off of the brushes, off the bristles. Alright, so these need to dry. Set those aside. And while that's going, just going to basically sort of hold this up against this again real quick. So you can see where I'm going to be putting the wings to attach them. What I want is that the little wooden piece in the back will be hidden by the time I'm done. Okay, so and I want to make sure I've got an edge here to attach a bunch of the wing stuff to. And then the head will go like that. So first things first, we're going to attach the ribbon right through the center. Now, you'll see how I did that too. Watch. Here's the top, here's the top. Bring them together. And that'll give you that little nice loop for hanging things there, okay? Got my glue gun fired up. And I'm going to put some glue here in the middle to attach the ribbon to. Getting a little wonky on me there. There we go. Sort of stretch and pull that out, and then I just give it a little pressure with that. Get that glue really adhered to the ribbon so that it doesn't come apart, since that is what we're going to be hanging it from. With that in place, now I can go ahead and place the wings. And I'm going to just leave a little space for the shell for the head. And make sure we've got enough of an edge to catch here with this. And it'll give us a nice little place for that to sit. And then this guy will be attached here. Pretty liberal with the glue. There. And I'm putting a little extra right here because when I flip the shell over, it's going to slump down and attach itself to the wood. If anything leaks past that, it'll land on the silicone mat and I won't have to worry about it either. Put some over from this side as well. Make sure that's really on there. Make sure you get the top lined up with where the top of the point of the little piece of wood is, and that you have the this way is the same as this way, so you have a nice even little reveal here for the wings. We go ahead and add some more glue here and here. right through that little hole even. See how it's not set yet? It wants to move. Yeah, let's do that. Kind of hold it in place a little bit. And I'm just looking at the shape here and making sure that this and this is the same. Right, now I'm going to let that cool. Alright, this is cool enough that I can kind of pick it up and move it and handle it now. And see where we have sort of this little opening back here. Kind of right in there. I'm going to go ahead and put a little more glue in that. And that'll really solidify the wings onto the background. Let that cool for a minute, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, that feels a lot more solid. Now I set this aside over here. I was trying to put some pressure on the top of this because it's split a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's going to keep it together there, which is okay. You know, if it splits, no big deal. And one thing I noticed when I was messing with this, you see the Mod Podge is mostly dry now, I can handle it. I did notice that, you know, there's a twist to the operculum, and that it doesn't want to lay directly flat that way against these shells, but it does a little better this way. It leaves a big gap though. See that underneath there, that big gap that's leaving? So I was puzzling a little bit how to pick up the difference in the gap and then see if I can do it maybe this way where the gap isn't as noticeable. And I think what I came up with is kind of a neat solution. Alright, so see these little pellets, these little glue pellets? I mean, they're not perfectly regularly cut here. These are what I throw in the glue pot to melt down. They're basically hot glue. So I thought, well, geez, if it's basically glue, why not just use it as a little post? A little hot glue on the top, on the bottom, in there, hook the thing to it. So that is what I am going to try to do, just as soon as I figure out how much space I need to take up. And these little glue things, I mean, they're not like regular sizes. Some are big, some are skinnier. So I'm just going to dump a few of those out here to fool around with so that I can find the size I need without necessarily having to cut anything. I will use these as some little supports in between the operculum and the wooden base. Now before I add those things to it, I want to have this in position. I want that guy to know where he's going to be, sitting right where it belongs. Then I can go ahead and layer in this. So first things first, I'm going to glue the face into the shell. Now all I do for that is pump and dump. Put a big bunch of glue in there, and then I drop that in, and the weight of the glass pebble will kind of move the glue around so that it starts to come up the side a little bit. This is exactly what I want. I don't care that a little bit of the glue shows. I know it's held in really well this way. I'm going to let that cool so that that won't slump or move. Then attach that. Then assess what depth my little support posts need to be. And we'll attach this. Having the body angled like this sort of gives the impression of being in flight as well. You can see the Mod Podge is mostly dry now. Just a little bit where it was glopped on there thicker. And if I clip this, this may come back together, but it's natural the way it is, and I really like it, so I don't think I'm going to bother. I'm going to leave it the way it is. Alright, so this would be cool enough now to attach here. And again, I'm generous with the glue. It's going to be sitting in a pile of it. I'm a little on the messier side when I'm recreate. I know I am. But I'd rather have it held together with a little too much than not enough. Alright, so now I have the head slid into the position I wanted, and that's the nice thing about hot glue is it gives you a few seconds of, you know, working time. You can jockey things around a little bit. Once it starts to cool and set, and it starts doing that, that's it. Don't move it anymore or you'll be re-gluing it. Alright, so do I want to tuck this underneath? Can I tuck this underneath? That's pretty thick. I think I'm going to do that with her. Just slightly overlap it. Now, while I'm holding this in place and nothing is glued yet, I'm going to flip this over and see how much space I need to take up when I put the little pegs on to get her to hold in place. That right there with her first. I don't know that I am going to need a peg on here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one of these sort of thinner ones, put this down here, and see if that helps. Oh yeah, that's making things a little easier, actually. Not quite in the right spot. That's okay. Now remember, this is the inside of the back, so it doesn't matter if you make a mess here either. But this will peel off. There you go. Alright, that one was a little thick. I'm going to opt for something that's a little bit thinner. I'm going to put it over this side. And then, yeah, there we go. I'm also going to put a ton of glue right here. And on top of that. Alright, now that that's cooled a little bit, I check the back and see where else it needs a little bit of support. Added in a little hot glue, pushing that little piece right in there. And so put some additional glue right there. And that's going to hold this guy nicely to our wooden base and support the angel body. And that way all the stress isn't up there where the wings are. Dump a little glue in that side there. And also, you can sort of push the glue in place here with this so you don't get any big gobs on the wing. Alright, there, see we've got now the glue is holding the operculum up here along those shells. There. Clean up that mess a little bit. And I've got some here holding it here too, so this isn't going anywhere. It's going to stay nice and secure. Alright, so we'll let that sit there for just a second. Now we're going to start talking about the decoration a little bit for the bow. And I don't know, I got to looking at this and I thought, well geez, you know, just this little thing of beads and that little coquina is awfully plain. So I have this gorgeous crocheted white ribbon over here. I'm going to take some of that. Oh yeah, a quick way to make a ribbon, or a bow rather, out of non-ribbon. Alright, so I'm holding this here, and then I take and do this. And see how it sort of makes like a upward facing, like a butterfly almost? you do that in place. Make sure they're even before you glue it. Roughly even. All right, now put a dab of glue there. And hold that until it cools. The glue's gonna slide down in there. And keep all these little beads in place. There we go. And once that cools, you'll have a little bow. And you didn't have to tie any knots. And a little glue right there. While this was cooling, and see how we've got kind of like a little bow here? We didn't really even have to do anything, and it's just held in place by the glue. I mean, it's a little fragile at this moment, but once we get it attached, it's going to be quite a bit better. All right, so I sort of felt like the coquina in this was really not enough. It wasn't fancy enough. And I also have a little glue over here that I do want to cover and hide. So the solution is we're going to make a fake bow. Okay, to make a fake bow, this is super simple. I cut a piece of this lacy ribbon. It's about 4 inches long. And watch this. I'm going to put a little line there in the glue. I can see my ruler through here, so I'm just going to center it. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and fold this in half and slightly overlap and fold that in half. So I've got like a couple of little loops. Now I'm not using a ton of glue here, and you'll see why in a second. Just enough to tack it in place, because I'm going to need to pinch this in the middle to make it look more bow-like. All right, so there's that. That's the top fake part of the bow. Now, for the trailers off of the bow, I'm going to cut, I guess another 4 inches. 2 little pieces that are about 2 inches long. Now, this stuff, this crochet ribbon has a tendency to fray a little bit. So I just sort of clean up the edges. Okay, get that out of the way. That out of the way. That's cooled right there. What I'm gonna do is pinch this in the middle. Like that. And it doesn't matter, it isn't perfect in the middle because it's going to get covered with these and these. Alright, so I'm going to end up pinching that in the middle. And then these are the 2 pieces that are going to go behind it. Like that. Okay? Making sense so far? Are you with me so far? So just to get an idea of how gorgeous that's going to be. Sort of covered up her little choir robe thing, but it still shows through the lace, so I'm okay with it. And then once you glue this in place, that fraying will stop. It's just while you're working with it right now that it's a little tricky to work with. To get all the little pieces off of that silicone mat because it wants to stick to it fiercely. Alright, I'm going to put a drop of glue in the middle here. I'm going to angle this ribbon out like this. Just tack those together. And then for the part where this part gets puckered, I'm not going to have the glue do it. And you see I'm folding in the middle, and then I'm kind of, it's almost making like an M or a W shape, sort of. Now I've also have cut here a small piece of 28 gauge ribbon. This is your 5-pound picture hanging ribbon you get right at Ace Hardware. And I'm just going to go around the middle of this to hold this. There. Now we have this cute little pinched bow. Make it look more bow-like by doing this. Alright, and this thin wire will cut with scissors. So no worries on the excess there, just trim it off. I wouldn't do that with sewing scissors, but you know, paper crafting ones, who cares? Now I'm also going to use, you know, something, anything. Screwdriver, pair of pliers, whatever you have on hand. Just kind of mash that a little bit flat, all right? So now we have this cute little ribbon, okay? And we're gonna make our bow on her. So peel this off the silicone. That's gonna go, this is gonna go here, and that's gonna get tacked through the center. That's gonna cover that up, and the coquina is gonna go on top of that and make this really kind of elaborate bow. All right, after playing around with this for a little while, I decided I'm gonna put this back here, so the little bow sticks up. A couple of little dots of glue will hold the pearls in line. And that's what's so great about working on this silicone mat, is that you can just, if it goes through the ribbon, it's no big deal. It'll peel right off of the mat. Okay, so there's that. And here's the little ribbony piece. It's gonna go right there for the bow. All right, now glue on the back of this. Place it over the pearl overlap. And now that I have this really fancy bow, I'm not sure this really goes with it anymore. So I think I may actually put a little flower right here. Oh yeah, that's really sweet though. Look how that's gonna look on her. Oh my goodness. So yeah, all we need to do then is cover up the little bit of wire there that was kind of ugly. We can do it with a button. We can do it with a couple of different things. We can do it with some beads. In this instance, I think, I'm going to try a couple of things, and I'm going to see what works best, and that's what I'm going to use. I may just put a single calico scallop over it. I took a look in my stash of tinies, and I have two scallops that'll be really cute with it. This orange one, which I adore, and I could actually set it that way, or this slightly smaller one. I don't know, that small one gets a little lost. And by the way, orange and blue are rather complementary of each other. Kind of ties in nice with this color here. All right, the orange one it is. Now, upside down or right side up? Here's upside down. That's cute. There's right side up. Oh, I think upside down's better. All right then. So we apply some more glue to the front of our angel to hold our bow on. Making a little V there. A little dot here and a little dot here. Tack the backs of the loops down. That is cute. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. Upside down it is. And I'm just gonna, Yeah, put a little blue on the back of that guy. Doesn't need a lot. And there. Now that wire is covered. And the loop is definitely tacked down, making a gorgeous bow. Little legs of the bow kind of held down too. Oh my gosh, she is so stinking cute. Look how adorable that is. Now, if you think the beads are too long, by all means, trim that back if you like. In this instance, I think I will take a few off of there, just a little bit shorter. About 6 beads worth. And if you want, you can keep dressing up things. Take these little pieces that you just cut and glue them up underneath here too if you want. Waste not, want not, they say, right? And because, you know, I mean, this is a craft project. It doesn't have to be ready to withstand a tornado. And there we go. Now that this is assembled and done, I'm just going to lift up and put a little glue underneath the end of the bow. Trying to hold it in place. Hopefully keep that from fraying anymore. And you can also give that a little dab with the Mod Podge on the ends of that ribbon to keep it from fraying any further. An adorable little angel made out of a pair of Sunray Venus clams, a white calico scallop, and a large horse conch operculum. And just to show you what the back looks like, it's nice and neat. We kept the glue pretty much behind where the wood is. A little bit extra out here, just take that right off. And yeah, that's got a nice bit of glue there to support the operculum. The wings are held on with a lot of extra, so yep, she's gonna be great. Now that she's cool and complete, we'll hang our little angel up right there overlooking the workspace. How adorable is she? Oh my gosh, super duper duper cute. Alright, so I got to thinking a little bit, and on this angel I want to do something a little different for the wings. I have these little wooden pieces, and I've got a selection of different sized ones, and my thought is, instead of using the Sunray Venus for these, so maybe I could cover these in like coquinas to make it more like feathers. So I busted out one of my minis boxes, and you can see I've got a lot of pink coquinas here. I've got some of the larger size ones with the stripes here, purple tagulus shells there. And then I got just a random bunch of purple and white stuff here in coquinas. And I do love picking up beautiful coquinas. They're so cool. They're such a cool little shell. But for shell art in particular, they're one of the things that we use quite often. Throwing around a few ideas, but I still actually like the idea of covering this with the coquinas instead, just by themselves. So I think that's what's actually going to happen here. And get another white scallop. Oh, and that reminds me, while I'm thinking about it, someone had asked me recently if I could explain the difference between a base scallop and a calico scallop. And it's tricky without color on them, right? When they're both white especially. But the difference that you'll see is the base scallop obviously gets quite a lot bigger than the calicos do. They also are quite high this way. And their ribs are a little more square and splayed out a little bit. I don't know if you can see the difference there. But yeah, that's how I tell the difference between the base scallop and The calicos, quite frankly, their size is a big giveaway, because calicos just don't get this big. Also in the base scallops, we see this in cream, tan, sometimes a smattering of like a rusty orange, gray. You know, they don't get anywhere near as vibrant as their calico friends do. So just a little quick difference in between those shells. Alright, so if I was going to be looking at my little angel, these are rather large wings. I mean, not that that really is a bad thing or anything like that, just it's a lot to cover with the other shells, so you can go as big or as small and as fancy or simple as you like with this. I'm going to go a little bit fancier, and I want to use, since I have so many of those nice pinks, I want to mix some of those pinks and purples and plain ones all in together. And the size will probably end up being slightly smaller up here, and then put bigger ones down here towards the tips. So I'm going to dump a bunch of these out and just start sort of lining them up and see how they look. Alright, so here you see I have a pile of the coquinas pulled out, the pinks, the purples, and a couple of yellow ones. And then I pulled out some of these purple tageluses because they will make like cool long feathers at the bottom. And, you know, I got a few of those guys too. Ooh, I even had a couple of hinged ones in there. That's fun. So yeah, I'm just pulling a few of these out. Now there's some of them that have a lot of their periostracum on them still, so I'm just sort of skipping past those and taking the ones that look a little, I don't know, I don't want to say cleaner because they were cleaned, but just look a little more regular in their color without the browns in there. Like some of these are really stunning. Great looking shell. Those are super cool. Alright, now I'm going to construct this one a little bit differently. Since these wings are going to have shells on them and they're going to be a little bit heavier, I'm actually going to use a piece behind them to attach things to support them. And then that's what the operculum will be going on, and that's where the head gets attached and all that good stuff. So, first things first, I'm going to go ahead and set up the head first. Put some glue stick in here. And then I usually try to like lean it forward a little bit and drop where the chin would be in first, and then hopefully I'll replay that in slow motion where you can see the glue line just moving back across it. So there we go. And because she has even more of a halo than the others, I may actually stick some little shells in here as hair. Some of these little coiled ones I got from the show. Let me grab those out and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, tell me that's not the cutest bunch of stuff you ever saw. These little tiny shells. Oh my god, I don't even know how many are in here. But I got this from a supplier at the shell show called Shells for Artists. I'll go ahead and link their website. I do know they will be traveling to the Sanibel show, so they are going to be down there if anybody's interested in picking up some crafting shells for themselves. And what I'm going to do, got a little bit of extra glue in here, and it's a little more than I wanted, but the intention is I'm going to take these little spikes and go around the outside edge of that head, and that's going to end up looking like hair, like kinda. Hopefully that made sense. Now you can see how very tiny these are, and some of them have more of a creamy color to them, This is one of those times when my pick and my tweezers are going to come in pretty handy. What I want to do is pull the ones that I want to use off to the side. Just get them over here. Oh, I thought these were the most adorable thing I ever saw. Look how tiny and cute that is. Oh my god. So precious. Now, these little teeny tiny shells are what people use to do the Sailor Valentines. And let me just tell you, those are like hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. They are a ton of work. Okay, get you over there. I'm not entirely sure how many of these I'll need, but I'm going to pull out a number of them at least. Gosh, slippery little buggers, aren't they? Makes you have a whole new appreciation for the Sailor Valentines that you've seen at the shows, huh? Each one of these little tiny shells, when they do those, is placed in one at a time. Takes forever. Look at me, I can barely pick them up. Okay. Dump out a few more. Get some more of that more yellowish color, the peachy color there. Here we go. Now we're talking. Alright, hopefully that'll be enough to kind of get me started here. Boy, these little guys are not easy to pick up either. So this is going to be a little tricky. And again, this is one of those instances where having a glue pot really kind of is going to help. That way I don't have to try to hold on to the glue gun with one hand and manipulate the shell with the other. Be able to use the tweezers and the dip and just place them where I want them, sort of the way that I did when I made the 2 styrofoam covered balls with the Augers and the Ceriths. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to make some jewelry out of these. Oh boy, y'all don't even know. I've got some cool stuff planned for these little guys. Boy. I also got a lot of other neat little tiny things too. Okay. Oh, just love those. Adorable. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to use the glue pot or not. All those little strings dragging over that way. So maybe the better solution is to put in a little drop of glue here and work as quickly as I can placing these little shells. It's probably going to end up being a couple layers of them. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't use the pot. That would not have worked out well at all. Come on, shell. Don't be difficult, my glue's coon. Aw, cute ringlets, that's adorable. So there we go, we got the little head done with the hair. Super duper cute. Next thing we're going to work on is laying out the shells to do the wings with. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I possibly buy shells when I live where I live and I can get all the shells I want? And clearly I find fistfuls of tinies, but these are even tinier than most of what I can find around here. They look like little baby fly speck ceriths, but they're not from our neck of the world at all. These are from across one of the oceans, I do believe. So I will see if I can find out more about what these little guys are called, but this is not anything that I can get in anywhere near our area other than through like a shell dealer or distributor. And for the folks who don't know this, the artisans and myself included, when we do stuff for the Shell Club in Sarasota, half the shells we're using are things that, you know, people from the club have collected. The other half is these little tiny itty bitty shells. They come in certain particular die lots. Some of them come faced left or right handed so that you can make the appropriate tilt to your flower petals with. So if you really want to get into learning how to do more of this and how to do the Sailor's Valentines and do some of the other things that we do, joining the Shell Club would be a great way to do that. You can go to sarasotashellclub.com and go take a look, see if it's something that interests you if you're in the area. Now for the trickier part, although getting all those little tiny shells in there with tweezers was kind of tricky in and of itself, yes. And I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to add a few more here and here, but I kind of like the look of it actually, just the way it is. So that was tricky enough. Now what I want to do is make wings for this thing on a base, and I want to use these little purplish tegel shells as like the longer feathers, and then use the coquinas for the smaller stuff up by the top. So I took a little break for a while, let my brain sort of mull this over, and I think the first thing I'm going to need to do is set these things out and try to find them in as close of correlating size on opposite sides as I can, so that the sides roughly match. They won't be perfect or exact, but I'll get close at least. Decided on a larger wing because the coquinas are, you know, they're not that tiny, so I wanted to have a space to use a few of them, and I don't know why, I just had this feeling that these long, sweeping, graceful wings would be nice on this one. So that is what this one is going to get. So I'm going to actually combine the teardrop shape that I was going to use for the wing with this long oval, basically, that was split in half. I'm going to just make this long, graceful sort of wing shape, like so. Just sort of like this. And, you know, line them up and make sure they're the same on both sides. But this, I don't know why, this seems like the right kind of wing for this particular operculum, and something about the long wing and the short curly hair just gives this one sort of a majestic kind of presence. So I'm going to mess with that. Then I'm going to start laying out the shells and seeing what's going to go where. Number one, I need to get my wing shape the exact way I want it first. Make sure that the scale of it fits with this angel. Like this, okay? And then don't forget, I'm also going to have that disc in the back to hold everything all together. So once I've decided on the wing base, the first thing I'm going to want to do is put the wings together and then assemble them on that circle base, the head and the body. And that seems to sit the best of all of them as far as being able to set something flat and then having the head in the proper position for where the bow and everything goes. So that looks like how that's going to work out. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to attach these things to each other to make the wing base. And then I'm going to line up some of these shells using my my ruler and just measuring them to make sure that they're going to sort of match on both sides, and then go from there. So I'm going to join you in a few minutes. And there we have it, pair matched wings assembled up. There we go. Now, in the interest of making the back look nicer, you put this part to the back. So I will be gluing feathers onto this side. Right, I was thinking I wanted a circle, but what this package had in it besides these teardrop shapes was these oval shapes, and that actually ends up working out being the perfect size. I have a little drawing up on the phone, just as sort of like an inspiration, just to kind of give me an idea. And I've flipped through a few other things of wings before. Not a lot of pictures of wings made out of shells, gotta be honest. I would have thought I maybe would have seen some, but nope. Roll my little colored work surface back here and get onto right here, where I can actually just sort of line all these all up. As you can see, some are quite a bit bigger than the others. And honestly, I don't need a ton of these, because these are just going to be the long shells, like here at the ends. Alright, so that gives me 6 of these shells to make my lower portion of my wing with. I just had this amazingly cool idea. Sorry, get the camera pointed up. I forgot that when I went to the show last year, I bought some really cool angel wings that were pairs. And look, how amazing is that? Oh my god, so beautiful. So I'm gonna finish going up the rest of the way with some coquinas. Oh yeah, that'd be really pretty with a line of these pink and that purple, and then this up. Oh yeah, that's gonna look amazing, and that's gonna save me about 2.5 hours worth of work as well, without having to put a bunch of tiny shells all on here. Score. Now you can see I have laid out the little tagulus shells that are going to go on this side, and I also picked out some coquina shells, kind of pairs and same exact sizes, so that I have a left and a right to put on these sides too. Let me just take these two shells and show you what I mean by that. This is where the points would go together, where they would hinge. kind of. Now these were not necessarily hinge pairs, but they were close in shape and size. So I want some that are going to face that way and face that way so that it sits better on the other shells. Alright, I picked out some more coquinas, and as I was explaining before, see where these little hinge points are? I want them all pointing one way on one side and the other way on the other, the same as with the Daedalus shells. So I picked out a coquina that sort of goes with that purple, and then this next line that's going to go up is going to be pink. And I thought about flipping them like this, and I really don't like it. I really like the outsides of them quite a bit better. I think they're prettier. So we're going to power through some of this and go high speed. So just like I did the last time, got some glue down on this wood, pressing the ribbon nice and firmly into it. That is going to be our hanger. Now I don't have the back in position in between the wings yet. I've tried a few different things to see what I was going to like best, and basically I've pretty much figured out where to put the shell so that the wood appears covered and that you can see the coquine as well, and yet this will still fit underneath it. So I have them side by side so I can get them as even as possible, and I'm going to go ahead and fasten down the angel wings. You'll notice I've got my little mat here on my ruler board so I can get things nice and even. Alright, here we go. And that's where that one needs to be. And I'm just going to take a look at things from the top. Make sure that the angel wing is in the right position so that you can see the coquinas but not look straight at it and necessarily see the wood. So they're pretty even right about there. I'm just kind of making a little mental picture of where that is, and I'm going to glue one down and then the other. Alright, I moved my other camera angle really above so that it's looking almost straight down. It's coming from like this angle, kind of here. And hoping that'll show what I'm doing here a little more clearly, since sometimes when I'm lifting the glue gun I'm a little bit out of frame. I'll give you an idea of what I've got going on here. Now I don't know how much glue I'm going to need on this side. I'm only putting a little bit. I'm going to really pepper it over here where it's going to be sticking to the coquinas. And I like to put a little bit extra in there, because then as the shell sits, the glue slides down and gets in between things. And alright, there we go. Making sure that the wood is covered up at the top. Alright, now I don't want that to move. Now with angel wings, when you get them when they're hinged together, and I had bought some at the show last year actually, so I had a few pairs kicking around. Man, this was like the coolest project to try them on. But you'll notice one side is slightly a little bit bigger than the other. That's okay. Pretty much just about every shell you find is actually like that. Alright. Load that guy up next. Ooh, it's really starting to come down out there. Alright, so I just want this to be like the other one, so there's a little exposure of the coquinas. It looks like it's about the same spot as the other one. So I'm going to let that cool, and once I can pick it up, I will backfill in some of that with some more of the hot glue, just to make sure that the angel wing's really attached to that. Alright, now this is cooled for a minute. Let's take a look inside of here. Okay, and you can see where there's some space for that oval to go in the middle, and where the glue sort of like slumped down in there to get onto the tops of things. So, alright, great. That's what I wanted. So since the glue is pretty much where I really wanted it on that one, I'll leave that alone. Take a look at this guy. Alright, so this one has more of a gap where that had some glue at. And see if I can gently get a little bit to flow in here. I'm just going to pump it in from the side, sort of. Alright, and while it's hot, you can push and manipulate it with this pick. So I'm going to take some of that excess off the outside. I'm just working slowly. Not, too slowly. It's starting to set, so. There. Take that excess off the outside. And now you don't see that I added more glue there, really. But there is some on the inside that's cooling, even as I speak. Just make it a little more solid. And then it was able to contact the wood there. Okay, great. And then what about on this one? It needs a little bit there for the shell to contact the wood. Just kind of dropping it in with the glue gun and letting gravity help me. And letting it flow over here where it's needed. All right, marvelous. So the next point we're at is to get the back in between the wings. Just cleaning up a little bit of the extra glue I've got on there, although it doesn't really matter because it's going to definitely be hidden. So, all right, so now the way I made this was so that the wings could kind of sit on the edge of this, sort of. So that's where I'm going to want them, but I have to make sure also that my my shell body is going to fit. So if not, I'll just angle them a little more. I think honestly I'm going to have to move this up a little bit. Move the wings out a little bit. But it does have to make contact there so that they stay together, those pieces. Okay, and that's where that's going to be going. So let's see how our shell body fits in. Ah, fits in there nicely. Perfect. And then the head is going to go right there. And that nice big bow right there. I'm seriously like so messy sometimes, but I'd rather it be a little messy on the inside and be strong. Okay, that one's up a little too high. Just slide it down. I'm just going to let that sit for a minute so it tacks up a little bit. Double check my fit on the shell. It's a little snug. What if I flip it? Oop, I don't know if I like that. Yeah, that's going to actually be fine. That's going to go there. Now let me just straighten this ribbon a little bit. There we go. I may hold that up a little bit with the ribbon while it cools. Okay. And while I'm just checking this, make sure one more time that that bow covers everything beautifully, which it does. Very nice. Awesome. Alright, moment of truth time now. I want to make sure. I just have this dry fit in there, so that's not going to stay there. And I need to put some more glue where this joint is. Alright, there's not a ton of overlap there. So when all is said and done, I may put a support structure across this just to keep everything nice and solid. But for right now, I'm going to put some glue right there. There. Let that sit for a minute. Then I'll repeat on the other side. There we go. You can see that's gone from super clear to a little less clear. Same sort of translucency as the glue stick itself. That's how you know it's cool. Go ahead and add some more. Now that's not going to interfere with me getting this piece on from this point now, so couldn't quite do it before because I couldn't get the glue around to the sides where I wanted it, but now I can. So I'll put some more glue here. There we go. I'm going to put some more glue over this and here as well, because remember this is going to be pretty well covered by the bow, and that glue is going to flow around and go underneath. Alright, now for my little angel's head, I'm going to make it touch right there. And I'm going to do this. Yowza, that's hot. Alright, now this does want to move around a little on me. So I'm going to have to kind of hold it into position. And I just put a little bit of extra glue in there. I'm getting the bow in position so it pretty much hides the little other parts that look a little messier. Really pretty. I'm gonna put a tiny little bit of glue here to tack that bow on this side. And a little right there as well. And there we go. And then this little beautiful shell in the pretty pinky purple, I thought would be the perfect accent for the center of the bow. Oh, that is so precious. Oh my gosh, she's so pretty. Wow, these are gorgeous. Right now, just knowing that it's on the fragile side, still, I am going to put in a little more glue in a few more places and just sort of backfill things a little. Make sure things stay put. Hopefully that's showing on the camera. I'm getting it down in the back. Dogs are freaking out because we're getting a storm. Alright, so there, a little extra, and she's done. Now we're going to work on making some wall art, and this is a little bit abstract in that it's not going to look like a professional photograph of a sea turtle. But what you see lined out here, I'll just stand up so that you can see this from above. But we're going to be giving the impression of a sea turtle's shell with some of these calico and sunray Venus clams. And I'm going to use the operculum as a head and the front and back flippers for the turtle. Typically when I work on a shadow box, I work direct to the background. So what I'm going to do is sort of give myself a little outline sketch to stay within. And I'm going to do that by taking apart this box, taking my backing, tracing around what's visible. Not the size of the back, the visible area of that. If you design and you work out too far close to the edge, you can realistically put shells in the way of being able to close your shadow box up, and you don't want to do that. So we need to know the exact dimensions of what's inside this viewable area and work from that. So I am going to go ahead and draw and fool around with this stuff until I get it arranged in a way that I would like to. Then it's going to get filled in, because obviously you can see there's gaps between these calico clams. They don't sit together, you know, like perfectly. So the plan is I'm going to use some of my little smalls. These are some of the mermaid tears, the operculums from the chestnut turbans that were picked up at Honeymoon Island. I got another selection of really great littles that have come from all over the place, including Fort DeSoto, Pasagrille, and Lido. These are some of the places that we hit really well with in the shell department when we were out doing our 5 beaches in 2 days stuff. I also have a few other little teeny tiny shells that were already in my collection, things like this, some of these extra bubbles. So these kinds of projects are a really good way for me to use up all of my littles and really be a little more expressive in my artwork. So I keep a wide selection of stuff, the big stuff, the little stuff, the broken stuff, the whole stuff. Since painting with shells isn't exactly like you can mix your own colors sort of a thing. But that's what I do with all of my weirdo and broken things, is I do assemblage collages out of them. You guys have maybe seen a few of them if you are familiar with the stuff that I sent to the auction for Charmin down in Southwest Florida Beach Lights, her auction that she had last fall for Fort Myers. There were 2 boxes in that auction, a Sanibel one and a Fort Myers one. I've also posted a couple of projects here and there. There was a small shadow box project in the holiday crafting video that we did where we made that cool set of lights and the ornament and the shadow box. So today we're going to be looking at something slightly different. It's not really an area, and it's not really just sand dollars and some other small things. I'm specifically trying to make one thing look like something else, which is a little bit trickier sometimes. Now, most of your shadow boxes are going to look just like this one that came from the craft store. I can't remember if it was Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joann's, one of those. It's a good place to get shadow boxes at. That's where this came from. I'm just moving these little tabs that hold the backing in off to the side so that, and then see this D-ring on the back? This is what this is for, not to hang it, to do this, to pull the backing off. So never hang anything in a shadow box by that hook. It is totally not meant to do that because it only goes into that press board and that foam and not into the actual wood like that hanger does. Now, as you can see, maybe too, I'm not sure if it's showing well on camera or not, but it's a little dusty, both inside and outside. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe this out with some Windex and paper towels before I get started. And then I'm looking at the inside of this. Now, let me show you this. See where my finger is? This is where the edge that is visible is. Try to get it in the light so you can see. But as you can tell, there's another, about 1/8 of an inch or so that this tucks back. So would be out of the visible area. So the best way to measure our visible area on this shadow box is right from this trim in the front, side to side. And then we'll measure this guy in the back and see how big he is. And you'll see an 1/8 inch this way, and then probably another 1/8 of an inch that way that we will lose from the edge of the working background. Also, because this is a shadow box and it's meant to either stand or hang, when you're working on the back, you need to be very aware kind of where your hangers are. Sometimes that's kind of important where the D-ring is set out at. So you want to make sure that you don't work upside down, go to put it in the box, and then you're like, oh man. So just be mindful of where your bottom is. I know that this and this are where the hangers are in case I want to hang something. I also know I'm working horizontally as opposed to vertically. So I can see that this little doodah right here to pull the backing up goes that way. All right, so when I go to work on this, I want to keep it like this. Now also, when you buy these things, because they're shadow boxes, they have this little bit of fabric and foam on them, and they put little pins inside so as not to mar the fabric with any glue. And what that does is it leaves big old dents right there in your background, so unless you're covering that, they will be visible. So when you're designing for a shadow box and you're going to work directly like this, you need to keep that in mind for your design to make sure you cover up anything like that. That was from a straight pin just being pushed in there. And they'll put the pieces of paper that they put inside these things to illustrate what you do with the shadow boxes if we don't know. And they'll pin them inside, and that's what happens. So kind of a known thing with shadow boxes, and you won't necessarily be able to see it until you get home and take the piece of paper out and all that other stuff. So just know that that's a factor that you'll have to design around. All right, there we go. That's a lot better. Not only did I get all that dust off of there, but when you buy shadow boxes at the craft store, sometimes there's like this film of grime, I guess I would call it. I don't know what else to call it. On the inside of the box. Not the outside glass. The inside. And it makes it look really kind of hazy and cloudy, and you can scratch it with your fingernail a little bit and see it. So far as I can tell, the only thing that takes that off is Windex. Rubbing alcohol will not remove that. So I went ahead and just wiped it all down inside and out with the Windex and got it clean. Now, since we know that this is bigger than the visible opening, I'm going to measure this really quickly. All right, so this is spot on at 10, probably by 8, because it's an 8 by 10 shadow box. So the back is true to size. So what is our opening? What does our opening look like? Yeah, now you're talking here, okay. See that? It's just over 9.5. And I'm going to guess this is going to be 7.5 here. Indeed. So your visible area on this brand of box, which since I took all the tags off, I don't even know what brand it is. This box is 9.5 by 7.5 for an 8x10 shadow box for depth, okay? Now, if you're looking down here at this, let's see how much depth we have to work with. The face of the fabric is going to sit right here on this edge. Like, this is where that thing sits in here, right? So if you're building something three-dimensional, like this little sculptural turtle or other things, it's important to know how high you can stack everything. So what I'm going to do is measure from the glass to the edge, and that is 1 5/8. Overall depth is 2, but working depth is going to be 1 5/8. So we're going to keep these 3 measurements in mind. And as you're working and building up whatever little sculptural thing you've got going on for your shadow box, you need to double check if you think you're getting a little tall. You need to double check this and make sure, because if you use too much thickness, let's say I know the box is 2 inches on the outside and that's what I worked to, because yeah, it's actually a little more like, you know, 2 1/4. Well, let's say I work to 2-inch depth and I go to put this thing together and I press down and oops, those shells that are too high break that glass right out of there. So make sure you've measured inside where your working dimension is going to be for your thickness, for your depth of the shadow box, as well as for your length and your width. All right, I've gone ahead and cut a piece of paper here that is 9.5 by 7.5. I've got some blue painter's tape. Just gonna sort of tack it down so that I can get an idea of my design. And remember, this is my working space. Not to here where the white is. So my design has to fit inside that space. So I'm just going to go ahead and tack my paper down and do a little rough sketch. Get the approximate placement of what I'm going for. And then we'll start building the box. And I'm using blue painter's tape because it comes off really easily. Not Scotch tape or masking tape or anything like that. I don't want any icky stuff left on that linen background in there. I'm just using a little bit of blue painter's tape. Any of you who have a Cricut or a Silhouette or a Brother Scan and Cut, you guys all know you already have a bunch of painter's tape around your house, because that's what we use to keep things on the mat when we're doing cuttings. As a little crafty tip side note, blue painter's tape is great. You can use it for tons of stuff. I took a couple of snaps with my cell phone, and I just want to pull this inspiration picture up a little closer and let you take a look at the side of this operculum, okay? The eye takes up a good bit of space here in the front. They stick away from the body a little bit. So I have this really cool old piece of fossilized crown conch, and I'm going to trim that down, make it a little bit smaller so that the eye is basically perfect right there. And I wanted you to notice this as well. See this squarish sort of an edge here to this? Now take a look at the turtle. See how he has that sort of square with that little overbite, kind of? That's their little beak where they bite into things. So that little piece being broken actually works very well design-wise for what it is I want to do with it. And you can see I've just got a loose sketch, sort of where things are going to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put the shells in place on this, and then I'm going to draw an outline and kind of use that as my guide when I work direct to the back. Watch what I'm doing here with cutters. See this? See that? Old shells that are in bad shape, you can break them like that. And now we have a much better eye for our sea turtle. That looks great. So I just cut that off with wire cutters. I didn't even break out the Dremel for that. I'm also going to take a emery board a little emery board, and just file this smoother. And then our turtle eye looks completely awesome for his little face. I love him. He's super duper cute. There we go. Now we have this cute little eye ready to go for our turtle. So first things first, I'm gonna just look at my reference pictures a little bit, kind of figure out how far forward to put the eye. I mean, I don't have to be anatomically correct, but I don't have to be way off either. This is let's see. Look at this guy a little closer in this one. It's quite far forward up toward the front. So it'll just be back from that little beaky part of the mouth. So that's where I'm going to attach that guy. And then I'm also going to give it a little Mod Podge coat, which will make this dark gray stuff sort of darken up even further. And you'll also notice this is a little bit jaggedy here on the edge. A little piece fell off. You can sand these operculums. You can totally, they're like fingernails almost. So you can totally file that down. And there you go. Nice and sanded. Let's see, does this one need any? Yeah, he's got a little wonky spot over here. Go ahead and give him a little hit too. Let's get our little guy's eye. Now, because the operculum curves, see that? There's also kind of like this ridge that was naturally occurring for this animal right at that spot. And because this is open in the back, that will nestle in there kind of nicely. Get some glue on that guy and put that right where I want it. There. And here's his little eye. Let that cool for a second. My edges on my paper are where things are going to work to. See, in my sketch, I've given myself about half, 3/4 of an inch there, and about 3/4 of an inch up here. And I'm kind of just about that far from the top, and just a little bit lower than that at the bottom. Try to, yeah, I don't know, just try to stick to the rule of thirds a little bit, if you know what that is from photography. Alright, so I think my shell is going to end up being bigger than I think. And I know I want his little head kind of lifting up, looking up, because he's swimming up, right? And then what do I do with, oh yeah, that coral. That coral is gorgeous. I love it. Oh, but we should make sure it doesn't exceed the thickness. Before I fall in love with it and use it to design with, I got to make sure it's going to fit in the box. All right, and looking down at it, it's approximately 1.25 inches high, and I know already that I have 1 5/8 inches to work with. So I'm just barely going to be under the height requirement for this thing, I think. I'm going to check that vertically in 1 second as well. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's 2 inches this way, right? It's got to fit in the box. You know what? Sometimes it's easier to just drop it in the box and look. I hate to do this because I just clean this all out, and sometimes there's a little bit of sand in your corals. Make sure you, even if you've washed it, you tap that stuff out of there. All right, I'm just going to drop this thing in the box and see. Even if I glue it on that flat side, I still have space. So there we go. This piece of coral will work. A couple other pieces I had planned on putting in there was this neat apple murex and this piece of coral too. I can tell by looking at that there's going to be no problem with this guy fitting in that box whatsoever, because this guy is taller than this one and this fits. So These are going to be little decorative elements down here on the bottom. Haven't quite figured out exactly how I'm mounting that yet, but it is going to go close by to where this coral is. And we're going to have a little murex there. And then I'm trying to decide if I'm going to put a couple of pieces of sea whip over here. I may. We'll see. I've got some outside, and as long as they aren't too wet from the rain, I should be able to use them. Sea whips are tough to clean. You got to let them air out for months so that they don't have that weird fishy smell to them. So I'll go check and make sure those are dry and that I can use them. And jump back here in a minute. Wow, wow, wow. Look at this little beauty. Okay, so picked this up at, it was either Paso Grill or Sunset Beach, but I want to say Sunset. Shortly after Winter Storm whatchamacallit and Finn rolled through, a bunch of sea whips had all come in with that. So it's been sitting outside for maybe about 5 weeks, maybe 6. Not entirely sure. This not only will fit in here beautifully, but it's actually quite gorgeous. Gives us some more 3-dimension to work with. Now, I may not use the whole thing. I may just split one of these branches away and only use half of it. Cut this off here, and then cut that off there. And then I'll have 2 pieces to work with instead of 1. Set it aside for now. And we're going to work on the shell. My little guy is swimming, and he's facing up this way. I can see in my pictures and my shape of my shells might make him a little bigger than he really is in the shell. I mean, when you look at a turtle head on down this way, yeah, they're kind of wide. But when you look at them in profile, they're really not that thick because they're, you know, they're kind of more compressed this way to glide through the water. So I will try to not make his shell too big. Now the other thing I am going to do when I put these down is I'm going to go over this because I want to hide that pointy part. Could I saw it off? Sure. If I saw it in a straight line, is it going to match up with my shells, turtle shell? Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. So it's better that I apply the shells over it and do it that way. So up here, I've got a little container with some more goodies in it. Got some of these smaller calico clams. I'm gonna kind of poke around here and see what fits my turtle. But I kind of like that right there because it looks like his little neck is protected and coming up out of the shell. And then there's a teeny little Sunray Venus clam here. And then maybe this guy here, like that. That's cool. Alright, now you see also I have all these itty bitty little shells, parts and pieces and broken things and whole things. I've got bubble shells and little tiny whelks and limpets and little baby murexes. So once I get the basics of where this is going to go, I will fill in the extra area with other little parts and pieces just to make him really look, you know, lush and put together kind of. But there's our basic sketch right there of what this guy's going to look like. Time to trace. Since I'm just hitting the edge of this, I'm going to kind of scooch everything this way. Give that little piece a little more space. I wonder, should I instead put this one here? And then put, yeah, that looks better. I like that. There, that gives it a little more space from here to here. Gives this a little space here and here. Okay, cool. Now, so I know where things go. Let's see, I'm going over here with my pencil, only this time I'm staying pretty close to where the shells belong. And I'm making the line a lot darker so that I know what's the difference between my sketch and where I'm supposed to be working to. Then once I have the shells in position, I can worry about kind of covering over some of the empty spots. But I want this to be like my template, like my little guide. Okay. With that done, now I know where his head is, where I had these shells arranged to go. Okay. I'm going to also make a little mark right back there so I know that that's where the back of the head goes, so it goes under the shells, like this. When I move this, obviously I know where the operculums are going, okay, right? But not necessarily these. So I'm just sort of going to slide them off the paper, but in the same arrangement so I can put it back together easily, if that makes sense. I hope it does. And go ahead and release, and again with the painter's tape, this is super simple, nothing stuck, coming right off of there. And just to make sure I remember where the shells go before I move it all, just in case the phone rings or something and I don't remember, I'm going to take a little snapshot of that. Okay, now I have it on my phone to refer back to in case I get lost. Alright, so sketch is roughly complete. Got a pretty good idea of where everything's going to go here. And now that I had the white sort of centered on there for the sketching part, I pretty much know where my edges are. And you can again take a blue painter's tape and mark that off if you really want to be sure. And I've been doing this for, I've been doing this long enough, I can pretty well eyeball it at this point. So, next up, I take my little turtle, and I'm just kind of cutting them out. We've got it trimmed out, and now we can sort of see a little better. With just the paper, we know the head's gonna end up right here. Okay, so we know roughly where everything's gonna go. And I know that I'm at least a ½ inch in from that edge, and a ½ inch in, or a quarter rather inch in from that edge. So let's scoot this little guy up. There he goes. And that's a great spot for him. Okay. From this point, I'm going to be referring to my paper pattern and just sort of lifting it out of the way. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to attach it to the background. I don't want to glue things to the paper, then to the back. I don't want these pieces attached to this. It has texture and openings, and it's just going to look so nice on that fabric background. So I could pencil line in, make sure I cover all my lines, or I can move very slowly and carefully, and one piece at a time, put my pieces where I had figured them on. So I know that goes there. Just like that. I'm just going to lift that out of the way. And put a little dot of glue back there. Now, will I go back and put some more? Yeah, probably. But for right now, that's going to hold that in place right where it belongs. And then, see, I just put my pattern over it. Do the same thing with the front flipper here. Alrighty. Let's slide him off of here right now for a second. Slide the pattern out. I'm holding it down on the end and just tilting it, putting down some glue, and into position. See how I did that? Now, is it perfect? No. Does it need more glue? Yes. Will I put some more in there? Of course I will. This is sort of sketch phase, I guess, like I was saying before. All right, so I know the little head is gonna go to about here. The back of it had to come to about there. So again, slide the pattern out, lift the back, put some glue down there. And then there's where the head's gonna go. And I'm kind of putting it down a little bit toward the back and letting this part lift up, since I do need to cover that with shells. So here is my body parts for my turtle. It's matching up with my little pattern beautifully. Now, if you'll notice, I took all of those and placed them on this exactly how they came off of this. So I know that the outside edge was up on that one and the inside edge was over on this one. And just so I know where it's going, based on that, I am going to now start adding these guys. I'm going to do the same principle here. I'm going to use my little pattern and then slide it out of the way. And don't forget, these extra spaces are going to be filled in with other things, so it's not like I'm going to have big gaping spaces showing here. Okay, so this roughly lines up with my sketch. I'm quite happy with that. And of course I can make some adjustments here too, like say if I don't want that far down, or I want it down a little further, I'll stretch this out. But what I'm going for here is I want that same shape I had in my sketch. There we go. And now his little head looks right. So these three pieces are tacked down already. Now we're going to tack down these outer shells. And then the fun part, because I'm going to fill it all in with goofy weird stuff like this. And like this. Yeah, this is awesome. Oh, this is so much fun to work on. Okay, time to start gluing things in place. Maybe I keep this guy, maybe I don't. I'll see as I start building it out. But I already can tell that I love this. And I already can tell that that's way too big, so that needs to be cut in half. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. Dunk. And there we go. And it's okay if that stands up a little bit. It's flexible. So now that I know where the turtle shape is going, I can also get in these pieces here and glue those into place as well. Gosh, I don't know about this piece. I kind of like it and I don't know. I kind of like it and I kind of don't. All right, I think that'll work like that. Remember, leave your areas, your edges, so that the box will fit around this. Before I take and glue any of this stuff down, we're going to dry fit this one time and make sure everything still fits. Moment of truth. Basically just drop this right over the top and make sure everything fits. It does. It fits beautifully. And you can see your spacing now on the side here, okay? So you see you got a little space here, and you got some space here and here, which matches that space, and these match these spaces. And that should nudge up a little bit, and that should nudge down a little bit. And maybe trim that long one off. And then this thing is, oh, so awesome. I am in love with this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell this, you guys. I might have to keep this and put this on my wall. Ooh, I do think he's so cute. Now, since he's my first one, and I really love the design, and I want to keep it, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this template as well. This will give me a starting sketch in case somebody does want to order one of these and is really in love with it and wants me to create another one. I will be able to do that. Operculum. I can't spell today. Alright, so I'm just going to keep this Operculum, which I spelled wrong, sea turtle template. I know what I meant. So I'm going to hold on to that, and I will be able to make another one of these at some point in the future. Alright, we're starting to glue things into place here. This is the fun part. Oh my gosh, this is just too fun. Too fun. And I'm going to hold that sort of up and away a little bit. And again, a little bit of glue showing there, no big deal, because we're filling all of this in. You want to be very careful not to get glue on the background. And it's maybe not your first day with the glue gun. Try working on the back directly. just saying, personal experience. I messed up a couple shadow boxes myself. But that aside, yeah, working directly on the back looks great. That beautiful background right there. That nice linen, super clean, goes with so many different decor options. So I really like it. Now, as you can see, our little shells are spread out just a littlest bit. Again, still slim profile though, because, you know, we're making a sea turtle, we're not making a tortoise. If we're making a tortoise, you'd have a big wide shell like this. So these little extra spaces, again, are going to all be filled in with all these little goodies and tinies and all sorts of little fun things. And I don't make those decisions on what goes where until these base pieces are set, and then I can hand and dry fit things in between and see where things look like they're going to fit the best. And every once in a while, I'm still making a little adjustment here and there. Okay, we're back. And now everything is on there. So now we can do the fun part and fill this in and make this really neat and interesting with some more goodies. And you'll see I'll put a little button down here for the end of the turtle's scoot. The end of the shell, that's what it's called, a scoot. Right there. So he's looking great. I'll fill all this in and away we go. You can see I am laying out some stuff to fill in the middle. I found some really cute small whelks, and I'm starting to fit those in and around things. And I'm going to use those and some apple murex shells and some of these cool bubbles and some other neat stuff that I have in here. I'm going to give it a bit of a random sort of a look. I don't want to make it look like it's a perfect pattern and match this shell for that shell or anything like that. I want it to have more of a random sort of a assemblage look to it. I'm trying to be careful with this as I work too. I don't want to get a lot of extra glue stringiness all over the place. A lot of the time you'll see me doing this with the glue gun. That's to break those little stringy pieces of the hot glue that sort of get stuck. Some really gorgeous little whelks here. Alright, see what I'm doing? That's to keep the stringiness to a minimum. Now, with some of these shells too, I'm going to go through and put a little bit of extra glue under a few of these. They don't necessarily sit perfectly flat, which is, they're not going to, they're shells. Oh, this guy I had filled in at one point with some clay, little tinted cantharus, because I was going to copper electroform it, and then I changed my mind, so I put it back in the let's work with it pile. I think he's going to go in here. I think he's going to go right back here. So yeah, all I'm doing right now, these whelks, by the way, see how they naturally just want to sort of sit right there on the end of that? So work with that. I mean, you know, let the shells a little bit do what they want. It'll make your life a lot easier when you're doing collage work, believe me. Work with the curves of the shells instead of against them. It doesn't seem like you'll always find a place or a piece to fit, but you do. It's amazing how it works. And of course, always taking a really, really good look at these shells. Yeah, just on the off chance that maybe I had a right hand opening one and didn't pay attention. That would be awesome. If you didn't know that whelks could do that, now you know. And they're exceedingly rare. I do not have one. I would like one, but I don't have one. Okay, and that guy. All right. So we get some interesting space filling already starting to happen here. And as I'm looking at this, logistically, I could put a bunch of small things, or I could grab a couple more Sunray Venus clams and fit some of the Sunray Venus clams like over these openings. Now, something to be a bit aware of when you're making assemblages for shadowbox. There's only so much weight that your hanger and your wall can hold, kind of. So I try not to make these too crazy heavy because you don't want them ripping out of the wall. Once you hang them up, then they'll fall on the ground and break. So just, you know, be mindful of that. I could take in fistfuls of this stuff and just resin and just fill all this in, but it's going to make it weigh a ton. And I'm not sure what that does to its hangability. So I don't want to make it too heavy. I want to make it to be able to be used on the wall. Or because it's a shadow box, it can sit on a coffee table or an end table as well. Yeah, a little bit of glue right there. Now, that's okay if that's a little bit messy, right? Because that's all getting covered. So I don't concern myself as much with that. I put that murex down there, and I'm liking how the murex and the whelks and this all is just going together. So I've sort of been standing over this and working, and I turned off my camera, and I just kept working away. I wasn't even thinking about it, so yeah, I got a little bit done here, and that shell is starting to fill in beautifully. Now, also wanted to point something else out when this goes in the frame here, okay? I think I mentioned the rule of thirds earlier. It's a photographic principle where you kind of divide your space into like 9 areas, and you weight it toward certain quadrants, sort of. So you can see this is sort of weighted. Your eye flow is going to go this way and then come around here, and there's this space over here, right? This is what we would call negative space. That's this space around where the design is. And you don't, I mean, you could fill this all with shells if you want to, but the design will be lost if you don't leave some negative space to let it pop forward. So I've got a big open space here that doesn't have anything in it, and I do not feel any need to put anything here to balance it. This is the balance I'm looking at. This is what I want. I want this empty space so that your eye flows around. I'm liking very much how this is looking, and you can take a look and see here. I've added some pretty neat stuff so far. Got an apple murex there, and a kitten's paw, and the tinted cantharus, a little fish vertebrae, some limpets, a tulip. And there's a little bubble shell, an old beat-up moon snail, a kitten paw with a cork jewel box attached, juvie fighting conch, a little piece of coral, an olive, these little whelks. So I'm just trying to put in a mix of little and different shells from around here so that you know that this is pretty much distinctly Florida. And I'm just going to keep filling in these empty spaces until I think it's done. And then we'll talk about that once I do get it to the point where I believe it's complete. For that point, that's going to be different for everybody. But sometimes it's good to be able to look at a project and know when you're done, when you have enough on there. And you can go too far and put too much and make it too busy. So I'll get to a point where I think it's got just enough, and that's where I usually call it. I just sat back down so I could look at it from the angle I'm working on it on. And I'm sort of thinking, okay, I want to work flat, but I want to just keep lifting it up every so often, just to make sure that when you're looking at it face on, that things look, you know, filled in, and there's not a bunch of holes showing through the shells or anything like that. I tend to work with the biggest shells first when I'm doing an assemblage like this, and then fill in the smaller holes, and then cover any random glue that shows that I, you know, don't want it to show. And then that's when I kind of figure I'm complete, when I have the spaces filled and a nice balance of the texture, and I don't see big empty white spots. Like right now I have spaces still to fill here, and here. And then if you're looking at this way, over here has some space that needs filling as well. So I'm going to just try to find things in my little stash bowl here that look like they're the right size to fill that space. Like right there, that would sit nicely right here, and then right over that, put a little bubble. Maybe I can incorporate some yellow in here with some little coquinas instead. Leave that off to the side. Oh, and I have some more fun orange too. Some broken horse conch pieces over here. Oh, hey. I'm liking that. like that up there a little bit. And then I'll cover this with something and put something small right there. That's cool. Wait a minute. Should I try it over? Ooh! Well, it does cover the eye though. Okay, well, quick fix for that. Don't be afraid. Just break a piece off. And there, that fills that nicely. There we go. And what else can I put alongside of that? Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I like that too. This little teeny tiny cone I'm going to put someplace. I'll hold him off to the side for later. A cute little Gulf oyster drill. I feel like this needs a tulip. I'm gonna go get one. Hold on. Well, it's not a prickly cockle, but it sure is a nice yellow. Ooh, I kind of like that. And look at that little tulip I found. Ooh, shoot! Shoot. Oh, what other goodies do I have in here? There's a small olive and a little piece of coral. Top off of a moon. All kinds of goodies. And a little tiny mossy ark. Oh, that would be fun to work in. And this should be enough with what I've pulled out to finish this guy up. Alright, now I'm doing the fun stuff. Where I just sort of put things on, see what they look like, see if I like it. Oh, that is actually such a cool piece. This is fossil coral. It's an old type of coral that grows over the tops and around shells and then just keeps going. Got a couple of examples of it in our collection already that are a little bit bigger than this guy, but he's really neat. Like a little chestnut turban or moon type snail underneath here. It's just completely covered in that coral. And that is super cool. Alright, let's see how we can fit that in nicely. Ooh, I like that. Alright, let me get up and see if I like it from the other angles. Not quite. Not quite. Okay, what if we put that there? And that there. Oh, I like that. And then my little coral piece can go along the side here. And I can flip it up so it shows off that hole, which is super cool. Okay. I think that's what we're doing. Well, hi. What you doing, pal? You gonna come hang out? Oh my gosh, gosh, this is so cute. All right, so looking at it from the front, most of the little holes and areas that I would want to fill are filled. A nice textural thing going on, not too tall, it'll fit in the box. And basically I'm just going to look at this from a few different angles and make sure that things go in this direction, look like they're filled in well. They do. Going this way they do. This way they do. So yeah, this looks filled in nicely. One more spot, I might put something right here. Yeah, that looks good. Boy, that wind is really picking up out there, and it is raining like crazy. It has been for hours now, since like last night. All right. Yep, that's going there. Right there. Okay. What else? Back here, maybe. Yeah, that's good. All right. That guy I'm gonna dip. Getting tough to work the glue gun on these small thin shells without burning myself. Oh, I do like him. He's so cute. All right, I'm going to have to come up with a name for this little guy. I'm going to have to think on that for a moment. In the meantime, I like him. He's awesome. I feel like he could use like one more thing right here before I pick up everything else. Ooh, that is kind of cool with the stripes. I like that. All right, now it's done. I have a lot of the little tiny spaces filled, not all of them, so that we continue to have nice texture. I'm taking a look at this and hoping I did not exceed my height. I don't believe that I did. I'll find out as soon as I put it in the box, but I knew since this piece fit, as long as I didn't go taller than this, I was going to be all right. We got some negative space here to help the eye flow around. And we've got the nice indication of his shell with some of like what you would see plates maybe on a turtle shell, but obviously with lots more cool stuff going on in here. And things are identifiable as shells from Florida. So I like how this looks. I'm going to pop it in the box, double check how it looks. Then I'm going to take it back out, and everything here is all going to get a coating of Mod Podge. I'm probably going to skip these because they were cleaned up pretty good and preserved already. So I don't really need to go over them, and I'm liking that matte finish, but I want the shells to be shinier with these to be matte finish. So I'll go over all that with a brush and my Mod Podge very gently and carefully, It'll bring the color up on these shells, and it'll make it absolutely stunning. And there we go. He definitely fits in the box. Okay, so what is this little triangle thing, and why do we need it? We don't need it. I just like it for being able to show things at an angle that you can see on the camera. That's it's meant for using your iPad when you're laying in bed to kind of angle it up so you can see it, sort of. And I almost never do that. I almost never lay down and look at my tablet, ever. So I don't use it for that at all. But it works great for being able to lean this up for display purposes. Oh man, I cannot believe I did that. I forgot to turn the camera on all the way while I was coating this, so I could show you what it is that I'm doing. But all I'm doing is painting this gloss Mod Podge over all these little shells, and it's brightened up their colors beautifully. Super pretty. And you'll notice I'm just doing the shells. I'm not doing the little operculums. And then the last thing I'm going to do is his eye. Alright, so that's a nice coating of Mod Podge there without having it run all over everything. Just going to set that little guy there aside. Make sure it's not on the heat. Okay, the last few things that I want to actually Mod Podge are the Apple Murex here and right here on the eye. So I've switched brushes. A little bit of a smaller brush to do this with now, especially the eye. Oh yeah, look at that, it's getting darker. How cool. Very nice. A little bit over here. Uh-oh. Glue let go a little bit. I'm going to have to re-tack that. And then our Murex. Oh my gosh, it's really brightening it up. It's making it so much darker. It's nice. I do like that. Alright, turn this little fella around. Make sure I got some of that there. Oh yeah, that really darkened that up. That's nice. Alright, so a little dot of glue to repair what I just broke right there with that little rough scallop. And I'm going to call this guy done. He looks fantastic. Yep, he looks great. Love it. Alright, and we're just going to call him Sigmund the Sea Turtle. I like that name better. Sigmund the Sea Turtle. John helped name him. So there we go. And he's fantastic. Let's get him in the box. Oh man, he looks awesome. Let's have him in. Just move all those little tabs back into place to hold that back in there. Oh gosh, I can't believe I moved that with my hands. That one was tough. And there we have our little pal Sigmund the Sea Turtle. He looks marvelous. Oh my gosh, I love how this came out. I just love how this came out. Adorable. Oh wow, look at how good he came out. He looks so nice down here with the lights. Even Buddy agrees. He's so cool. Now for a peek at our Jasmine turned into Ocean's Abundance project. Oh, this is so adorable. Do you remember when we were on Longboat Key after Finn and I found this cute little Jasmine doll? Oh my gosh, she was so sweet. And I knew I had to do something special with her. So this is what she got transformed into, this stunning little nightlight. And let me tell you, this took me like a week to do. I started out with painting her hair and her dress over. And I had to build an armature to build the little light cover that so I had a base to work on to make her dress. And look at even color. Not only did I color her hair, but I added that cute little decorative headband on the back over here with a shell above her braid. And I did turn her little crown into a little rhinestone encrusted beauty too. So look at that little shell on the back, like the bustle on her dress. Oh my gosh, she's precious. And she's so pretty. And to me, she was just a part of that whole ocean abundance couple of days there where we had all that great shelling. So I did something spectacular with her and turned her into a nightlight. Now wait as I turn the lights off, and you're going to see a little more detail on her in just a second here. Oh, there goes one light, and there goes the other. So you can see the light is transmitting through all of those beautiful shells on her skirt. Isn't she adorable? Woo! Crap, did that break my angel wings? Oh, mercy. That was scary for a minute. Dang. Okay, now, where was I before the flip? That's alright, it's not about the speed, it's about the enjoyment. Oh! Shh! I don't have enough! Are you gonna help me? Are you coming to help? No, you're not coming to help. You're coming to distract. And a small one right there, and that's that. Ouch! I just put my hand in the glue pot. That's hot. Ouch. Woo! No, don't drop it. Ouch, that's hot. He decided he's gonna help. Buddy, are you gonna help me glue shells? Can I have some space to work? Why don't you lay down on the floor behind me, Bella? This little guy so much. Hi, pal. Are you gonna help me? Are you gonna help me? You don't look like you're being very helpful. Kind of look like you're sort of in the way. Can you work at the glue gun? I'm a good boy. Yeah. Okay, go ahead up. Up. Lay down like a good fella. You gotta lay down like a good boy. My shells. Glue stuff all over my hands. Jeez. Okay, I'm gonna turn this over. I also want to gloss this and this and this eye. Okay, where was I before the dog started going crazy? Because John was back. They're like Dino Flintstone when he comes home. That's what we're doing. Well, hi. What you doing, pal? You wanna come hang out? Go sit on the floor, okay? Good boy. Whoops. coming up here to inspect what I'm doing. Hello, Hammy. I love you, you crazy monkey. Alright, I need my lap back and I need my arms, okay? So hop down. Atta boy. Good fella. Isn't that stuff so cute? Oh, I love the turtle. The turtle came out super cool. And I really do just adore that little teeny tiny mermaid Jasmine. And you know, you're bound to find random things on the beach all the time. Now, I don't personally want to get into the artwork that involves the random stuff that's found on the beaches. There are plenty of folks in that space right now, and that's their thing, and it's not really mine. And I definitely don't have any place to bring home garbage and store it to make art projects with, because I got barely enough room to store shells to make art projects with. But any little random thing that you find that gets left behind by little ones or gets washed ashore because it fell off a boat or whatever, hey, it's fair game to make something out of it, especially if you can make something adorable and cute. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this session of let's use up some of the cool stuff we find, the coastal crafting with Mitch. So please, let me know in the comments if you're going to try some of these ideas yourself and how they came out. Also, if there's something that I didn't show well or explain perfectly, please let me know that so I can continue to improve on what I give you for videos and content, so that you can not only enjoy your shelling trips, but you can enjoy the after time, after the shelling trips, where you get to pick up and play with all those shells again, relive all the moments, and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming along this fun little journey this week. And stay tuned, because we are going to take another visit out to another location for some more amazing shelling. Oh my goodness. This was a Pass-A-Grille trip rivaled only by the mass beaching. There was so much to see and pick up, and we started out early seeing only by headlamp. So we're going on a new adventure this coming week with a totally new way of shelling. Remember, have some of these fun adventures yourselves. Get out there and go shelling.